Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL on wherever you get your podcasts and on the BackChat YouTube channel. And what an exciting time it is now. Can you feel the excitement? It is state game time. This Friday, West Australia head to Adelaide to look to claim the Hayden Bunton Cup for the first time in 4 years against the best from South Australia. And we're going to preview it all for you today here on Around the WAFL. Paul Persick is my name. It's a great pleasure to have your company. And once again, joining me is Taylor Cowper. Taylor, can you feel the excitement?
Man,
Huge
like
game.
Christmas Eve for you, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And it should be for everybody. This is a huge game. The century-old rivalry is back once again.
Yeah.
West Australia taking on South Australia.
Been a long time since we've won, though. So hopefully WA can get up from our point of view here on our podcast, Paul. But the only thing I want to say is it's hard to get excited about it when it's a 140 game on a Friday.
I find that a bit odd, to be honest with you. Because last year, when you think about it, it was on, I think, about 12 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And that was the curtain
leading
raiser.
to what AFL game?
West
was
Coast Melbourne.
West Coast Melbourne. It was still streamed to the AFL app, which I have no problem with at all.
Yep.
I think it's a great product. But just 140 coming back into Perth for a state game that we're trying to build up, I think it's a bit of a blunder in a sense, because I just wonder, you're finishing work, even if it was pushed back, and I know that it's obviously a lead up to an AFL game, but even if it was starting around 4 WA time, because then people could finish work, they might have a couple of drinks in the office, put it up on the TV, whatever it might be. But the Friday thing I'm really questioning, and I know they can't push it back to 4 because obviously AFL scheduling, that's right. Totally fine. But why do it on a Friday night when it's coming into Perth on a Friday afternoon? Push it to a Saturday or a Sunday, Paul.
A weekend thing. That way you can get more people in, not just with the live crowd there that are heading out to watch the AFL game. They can see a good glimpse of the stars from the very best of the state, but also, make sure that there are more viewers out there as well. And speaking of, the game is going to be live on the AFL app and on afl.com.au from 1:40 Australian Western Standard Time. It is set to be an absolute ripper.
The last thing I say on this, and we could spend ages talking about it, the last thing I say about this time slot of the Friday afternoon before the AFL game is, I know they do it 1 year in WA, 1 year in South Australia, back and forth like
Alternate,
that. I've got no problem with that, but surely stronger heads should prevail in this sort of situation and go, well, if it's during the bye round of the WAFL, no problems at all there. But maybe it doesn't really matter where the game is played. I just think you want to try and get as many people as you can physically to the game and as many people as you can watching it online. And Absolutely. I just don't think that's reaching that in this time slot.
But we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But the contest should be an absolute cracker. We'll talk about that, and we'll look at the WA team in depth, because there's a lot of youth in this team, and we'll talk about that with Daniel Hobley, who will join us a little bit later on. You're listening to Around the WAFL, Taylor Cowper and Paul Persick. But first of all, we'll talk about the team that is representing South Australia tomorrow, and we've been speaking to this guy a little bit off the air, and it's only fitting that we bring him on. He is back on the mic for another edition of this great contest. He is El Supremo of South Australia, and we're glad that he can join us on Around the WAFL. The one and only John Casey. He joins us on the show. John, welcome.
Thanks very much for having me, Paul. Always great to be talking football with you and the WA fans.
Great pleasure to have you on, Case. Talk about this team. It is a very strong team that'll take to the field on Friday.
South Australian team, it is looking very good on paper, but I have to say the WA team arrives here this afternoon, and they should arrive with some optimism about getting the result, because we know how close it was last year. You and I were lucky enough to call the game together, and it was a 4-point thriller, scores level there early in the last quarter, and I thought at one stage Stephen Gyro was about to kick a goal that was going to put you back in front. But the South Australian team, while strong, certainly isn't as strong as it could be. We've lost Pat Wilson from Sturt due to suspension. Harrison Wigg and Mitch O'Neill, who both played last year in the midfield, are out with injury. And Campbell Coombe, who's been outstanding this year in the sample, he has elected not to play. He's unavailable for the clash. So while we have a strong lineup, certainly not as strong as it could be.
You talked about that player from Sturt that's not playing, Case. They've obviously got 6 that are in this squad for this game. They've had a fantastic start to the season. Do you find in these state games that if you get 5 or 6 really good players from a team, it really drives the culture of the side heading into these state games?
Yeah, I think so, without a doubt. And you're right, the Double Blues have been outstanding this year. They've won 6 straight games to start the season. They were probably expected to play finals this year, but I don't think anyone's expected them to be 6-0 on top of the ladder. And Marty Matner, former Crows and Swans player, is doing an exceptional job with the Double Blues. And the players that they've got in to the team for South Australia, Will Coombliss played last year. Marty Frederick is a new face this year for the Double Blues. Tom Lewis, Casey Voss, who was our best player last year and won the Foss Williams medal, Josh Hone and Connor McFadden, who is a recruit from Brisbane. They're all going to play an important role, but keep an eye out for Tom Lewis. I think Tom Lewis is good enough to be on an AFL list, and I don't for the life of me understand why he's not. The knock on him is that perhaps he's a yard too slow. Well, I don't see that. He's a tackling machine and leads the competition in tackles. You won't find a harder person at the ball. And for WA viewers who may not be familiar with Tom Lewis, keep an eye out for him. He's a very exciting young player, and I think he's going to be key because obviously the midfield battle is so important to getting the right result for SA and WA.
No, you're absolutely right. Tom Lewis, 15 tackles on average this season in the 6 games he's played for Sturt. He is a beast, and the WA midfield will have to keep both eyes out for him. Harry Boyd, I reckon, is one that WA will have to look out for as well. The only representative from the reigning SANFL premiers, clutch in that grand final. Jack Oatley medal last year. What a dominating season he may have. He had last year, and also could dominate the game in the hitouts.
He could. He is a very, very important player for South Australia. His form this year probably not as good as it was last year, but that's hardly surprising given that, he finished top 6 in the Magarey medal last year, was runner-up in the Shearman medal, which is the Magarey medal voted on by the coaches, if you like. And as you say, he had a great grand final on the Jack Oatley medal and really dominated for Norwood. But Norwood coach Jade Rawlings is the new state coach this year after being an assistant last year. And his team is 0-6 for the first time in 100 years that Norwood have started the season with 6 straight losses. And the reigning premiers, while they're not pressing the panic button just yet, they've got problems. And Harry Boyd, I think, and I asked Jade Rawlings about it at training last week, whether or not this was a nice distraction from them to get away from the pressure they must be feeling, given that they are 0-6 on the bottom of the ladder and the reigning premiers. But Harry Boyd's going to be super important, no doubt about that.
Before we let you go, Case, appreciate your time on the show. I know you're obviously going to tip probably South Australia in this one, but WA, we struggled against you guys in the last decade or so. What do we need to do to get over you guys?
Look, I'm obviously you're going to tip South Australia. They wouldn't speak to me if I didn't. But I really do like WA's chances. I mean, as I say, last year was so close, could have gone either way. And while South Australia have won the last 4 and were very impressive in the last clash at Adelaide Oval, where we won by, was 53 points, 20 goals, 10 to 11. I just think that South Australia, not as good as they were last year. I did note that WA have got a 2-week head start in terms of preparations, getting the team together, getting the squad together and so forth. So I think there's not going to be a lot in it. By my count, there's 11 WA players from the last game last year playing. We only have 9. They're only small margins, but I think there's enough to suggest that this is going to be a cracking game. Weather forecast, not great. Going to be perhaps some rain, a little bit slippery, low scoring. I think we're in for a thriller. I won't be surprised if WA get across the line, but I'm certainly tipping South Australia.
Not surprised about that.
I was going to WA by 2 goals. Is that right, Case?
They can certainly do that, but I'm tipping SA by less than a goal.
Oh, it should be another cracker. Should be another cracker, Case.
We now lead 49-48, as you know. We've won the last 4. You're overdue, so you bring it, we'll bring it, and everyone can join us on the Sample Now app or the AFL app and watch the stream. It should be a cracking game. I'm calling it with Chris Kendall, who's a great aficionado of football here in South Australia. Really looking forward to it.
It should be a great game and a great call. All the very best to you, Case, along with your co-caller, Chris Kendall. And as we let you go, Case, as one great one would say to you and to all South Australia, just bring it.
I look forward to it. Great to chat with you, fellas, and good luck for the remainder of the WAFL season as well. We watch it with interest, and it seems like it's a very interesting season unfolding there.
Thanks, Case. That was the one and only John Casey talking to us here on Around the WAFL. Big calls made by Case. South Australia, only 9 players back from last year. Could that be a difference?
Could be. We got 11, so it is a much of a muchness between those two. But very young sides. Really, there's a lot of AFL talent in there as well. Players that have been AFL listed players, and there's a lot of experience as well from that South Australian side. So it's going to be a cracker.
And the fact that there's going to be rain forecast, that's the great leveller in football, especially in state games where, it could turn out to be really tight, maybe a 1 or 2 goal game. My golly, it is going to be a real cracker.
Yeah, will be. And that's where a lot of those really small kind of in and out midfielders for WA, we've got a lot of them in our side at the moment, are going to really come to the forefront in this one.
Of course, this game will be live on the AFL app, and of course for South Australian viewers on the Samful Now app. You can check it out from 1:40 Australian Western Standard Time. You're listening to Around the Waffle. This is Taylor Cowper alongside Paul Persick. Now, we'll have Daniel Hobley joining us in just a little bit to talk about the WA team, and it is a very good team indeed. Just quickly, TC, 49-48, the ledger in favour of South Australia. Both have unearthed great stars in the 100 years that this rivalry has been on. The passion and the desire to win is still at a high for both states.
Exactly right. No, really looking forward to this one. Do we have Dan on now?
Yes, we do. We do have Daniel Hobley here. He's representing Western Australia. He's here to talk about the team that was announced earlier this week and the chances for Western Australia in this particular game. Dan, thanks for joining us, mate.
Paul, very good morning to you, mate. Lovely to have a chat with you.
Great to have you on here, Dan.
Good to have someone with a level head, not a South Australian.
Oh, don't be harsh, TC.
Well, don't the South Australians have two, or is that Tassie?
Well, you've said that, not us. Mate, this side looks really, really good from a WA point of view. Talk us through it. Who kind of stands out to you? Were there any players that you thought should have got a shoe in there from the extended squad that was in there? From my opinion, it's a really well-rounded team, and I reckon they'll go pretty well against South Australia.
Yeah, I think I've counted probably, boys, 11 or 12 names that represented that side in the 2022 fixture, where they were beaten by 4 points. They got very, very close. Having a look at the current list, I think the first name that jumps off the sheet for me is probably Luke Meadows. 29 touches and a goal last week for West Perth. I think he's just having such a fine year. You've got to look to the experience side of things. And when we have played South Australia, it's always been, for me, the sheer body size of the South Australians. And Luke Meadows certainly gives us some experience in that midfield and the ability to be a goal-kicking midfielder. I think they've gone well with selections like Jonathan Marsh to shore things up. And I actually don't mind the inclusion there of Mitch Dobson. I think he's going to be pretty handy. I think Dobson naturally offers you another avenue to goal, and he's just tough and puts his head over the ball, and that's what you need at the highest level from the West Australian perspective. So those names certainly leapt off the sheet for me.
What about Milan Murdoch? He's had a sensational season over at East Fremantle, averaging 30 touches a game, always magnificent in midfield, and his speed from the centre as well will also be a key.
Yeah, speed's going to be a big thing. I think I had him down for 26 touches last week. He's had a couple of shots on goal. Speed, I think, is going to be a big thing, especially on the outside if he can get the peel from the inside. 7 tackles too, so he's been a bit of a tackling machine in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I haven't seen him live this year, but from the vision that I've seen, through the WAFL app and through the beauty of the internet, certainly looks like a fine player. And for East Fremantle, certainly a key player for their finals chances going forward.
You mentioned just before about the big bodies that are in this side and the experience that is in there as well, especially like down back you've got Erdley and also Jupp, who's the captain. But the other one that kind of stands off the sheet a little bit from a big body point of view is Mitchell Dobson from West Perth. I reckon a real hard-bodied player. I reckon he'll be great in this state game for WA.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As I mentioned before, I think Dobson's the type of player that will add that steal that you need. I also think with Dobson being in that side, I don't think he's going to be a selection that will sit on the bench. He just offers you some versatility. He can float through, on that half-forward line. Could even play off a half-back. Could play off a wing. He's got a nice kick over that 25 to 30 metres where he can cut the arcs and set players up and hit them late out. But I think it just makes South Australia think about, who they send to him. Dobson, I think, is a good selection. Boys, I'm not sure what your thoughts are in regards to the ruck stocks. Clearly a lot of pressure going on back to Oliver Eastland. Of course, West Australia had the luxury last year of Scott Jones, but I'd be interested to get your thoughts on on the workload of Eastland and the options that will float through there.
Eastland has been fantastic for Claremont this season. I mean, he's dominated the hitouts in every Claremont win that they have had.
Yeah.
But also, what is going to be the key for Eastland is if he's able to get more support around the football. But at the same time, he does a lot of great stuff around the ball. He gets first to it, very good tackler, and he can kick the odd goal here and there. So his versatility is so good.
Who rotates with him, though?
Tough one because there isn't a lot of backup, but I reckon Angus Scott
maybe.
He's got the height and he's a big body player.
John O'Marsh a bit for East Freo. Yeah. He's been playing that ruck role in the forward 50. So there's options there, but yeah, he's gonna struggle. If he doesn't have the support, Eastland's going to struggle a bit in this game. But the weather might help him a bit as well.
Yeah, because it is going to be slippery.
Yeah.
It is going to be slippery over there. Speaking of the weather, Dan, obviously in that game, weather's not going to be grey, as we mentioned with John Casey earlier. Could that be the leveller? Could that make it a real tight arm wrestle?
Well, I think that's what will probably bring West Australia back into it. South Australia are going to be a formidable opponent. Weather-wise, it's a shame that the weather is turning a bit because you'd love to see it played in beautiful conditions, but that's where we've mentioned about the bigger bodies. That's clearly going to play a big part. What I'd like to see from Western Australia is to move the ball quickly. I mean, I know when conditions aren't inclement, it is hard to do that, but get the ball in. There's a big opportunity to get some early scoreboard pressure. Blokes like Ben Sokol, they've been around for a long time. They've got the ability to move the ball quick with the team that they've got. So there's some highly skilled players. I'd like to see Eastland be aggressive in the ruck. If he's up against someone of, genuine size, which he will be, bash the ball forward. I'd like to see, WA play that Richmond brand of a bit of chaos football. If it gets to be wet, just get it forward, get some early scoreboard pressure and, really look to take up the South Australia in a physical sense. I know that can be tiring on a number of players, but I just think we need to make an early statement.
Yeah.
In previous years when South Australia have got a bit of a ascendancy early, they tend to have bullied us in that midfield and they've always had a very formidable forward line. So we need to keep the pill out of their hands and get some early scoreboard pressure. I know that sounds obvious, boys, but, it's going to be one of those things of where the game I think we won in that first quarter and a half.
Hey, Hobley, thanks for your time on the podcast today. Now, just before you go, your tip and who you think's going to be best on ground.
Oh, look, I went with South Australia. Last time I was on the show, boys, and I didn't feel good about doing that. I'll flip. I think the Black Duck with him, he's going to go back towards West Australia now that I've had a proper look at their squad. I think if we're going to win, it's going to be a captain-led performance, and I think Juppy will be our best player on the ground.
All right.
I just think if we're going to win the game of football, I think it's going to be something pivotal from him. Look, he's a smoky. And I think you can't go past the like of Luke Meadows too. I think he's just a natural ball winner. Interesting to see how Turner goes, but I'll go with Jupp to be our best player along with Luke Meadows and for Western Australia to get up by, let's say, 8 points.
Well, I'll tell you what, we don't condone gambling or we don't talk about it on this show at all, but Juppy to be the BOG in this game, he'd have to be paying about $18 or something like that, I'm sure.
Oh, that's
probably
a long
21.
Price.
21, yeah, there you go.
That's a long price, but we'll keep our eyes on that. Dan, we really appreciate your time here on Around the Waffle. Enjoy the game on Friday and all the very best.
Love your work, boys. Good stuff.
That was Daniel Hobley representing Western Australia. So both have tipped different sides. Casey, unsurprisingly, has tipped South Australia. And Hobbers, unsurprisingly, has tipped Western Australia. So even end of the ledger. Of course, you can catch the game on the AFL app Friday from 1:40. AFL app or on afl.com.au. You're listening to Around the Waffle. Taylor Cowper alongside Paul Persick. All right, we're just about to wrap up here,
Yep.
TC. But let's put each other in the hot seat. Who wins by how many? And who will be the Simpson medalist, the best from Western Australia, and the Foss Williams medal winner, the best from South Australia?
All right, so Casey Voss obviously won it last year, the Foss Williams. I can't remember who won the Simpson. Was it him as well?
It was Lee Kitchen.
Lee Kitchen. All right. I'm going to... It's a tough one, isn't it? I'm going to go, and I feel horrible for saying this.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I'm going to go for South Australia in this game just because I want to... Are we including this in our tipping for the year between you and me?
Yes, that one will count.
Yeah, no, so that's why I'm saying South Australia in this one. And I reckon Josh Hone. From Stirred, 150-game superstar. I reckon he's going to probably take out both the Simpson and the Foss.
Well, the Simpson can only be won by a West Australian player.
So the Simpson, you want the Simpson medalist
as well, the best from WA.
I think I actually agree with some of the older players standing up a little bit in this one, and I think it's going to be a very, very interesting one. I'm not thinking Matthew Jupp, but I am thinking along a similar vein, and I reckon someone who's going to really stand up, who's been performing pretty decently in the WAFL. I reckon Cam Erdley down back is going to be a star for the WAFL side.
Well, he too can carry plenty of experience
100%.
like Matty Jupp as far as the state team and East Fremantle are concerned. He has had a great season as well.
Now, whilst you're just talking, I'm just going to ponder my tip again. I might change it, but because the show's not done yet. Whilst you talk, I'm just going to think.
All right. Well, I'm tipping Western Australia to layeth the smacketh down on SA, but only by 7 points. Okay. I reckon it's going to be very, very close, especially with the weather proving to be, as they say, the great leveller in any level of football. For the Simpson medal, I'm going to say Jesse Turner. I'm going to say Jesse Turner of Swan Districts.
Yeah.
Despite the Swans only having one win, he's been in great form, and his run and carry through midfield can be so important for the state side.
Especially as a vice captain as well, leadership role, and
especially when it's going to be inclement weather, they need to get that run and carry game going, that explosive brand of chaos football. Jesse Turner can do that. And for South Australia, the Foss Williams medal, I'm going to say Tommy Lewis. If he and his tackling prowess can shut down West Australia's midfield, that'll go a long way for South Australia, when he's averaging 15 tackles a game with Sturt this season.
And especially if it's going to be a wet and windy game, and they've got a few boys, obviously, from Sturt. We spoke to Casey about that. It's going to be a really close game, and I'm just going to change my tip. Same players are going to win the medals. Stop it, Scully. I'm allowed to change. The show hasn't finished. I'm just going to go for WA because
You've seen the light.
Western Australian. Why not? Doesn't affect me massively. Like if they do or they don't. But no, I just good to see them go over there and get the win. Why not change it up?
Well, they haven't won the Hayden Button Cup in 4 years. It'll be well overdue for West Australia.
Yeah. The only thing, I can't watch the first half. We've got a meeting at 2:00. Something's got to be done about that.
Yeah,
That's
I have
rubbish.
to say. Well, I can watch the full game on Friday, but it should be an absolute cracker. Can't wait for it. TC, thank you very much
Thanks,
once
Paul.
again, and we'll see you on Tuesday to review the game.
Thank you.
And we thank you, all our listeners and our viewers, for tuning into our special state game preview here on Around the Waffle. All the very best to West Australia and South Australia for the big battle on Friday. Just a reminder, we have our socials in our operation. You can like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Give us a big thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. And you can listen to us on wherever you get your podcasts or watch on the BackChat YouTube channel. Thank you for your company, and we look forward to reviewing the state game on Tuesday here on Around the Waffle.